We will talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold and the reception he got at Anfield very shortly. Just an overview on the game, Wrighty. What did you think?
Well, the start of the game was, you can imagine when we was 2-0 down, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? We've still got to finish this season and we've got to play Newcastle, who are trying to come for us as well. So as disappointed as it's been up to this point, Kels, you feel what is going on with our team. We were so often the first goal, the marking, everything, the tracking, but everything was just wrong. You're thinking, what is going on? I was doing it here. And then, I said here, I was doing the game, and I said, then something needs to happen at half-time because this is unacceptable, this performance with what's on the line.
Yeah.
So you have to say, I was really pleased to see them show that kind of like grit in the second half and find it themselves to get something out of that game.
I suppose the concern and the accusation maybe that will be levelled at Arsenal is it's all well and good showing a bit of grit when you're 2-0 down in a game that doesn't have any significance on the outcome of the title race. Where they need to show it is in semi-finals, in finals, in the last few games of the season when there is a title still on the line.
When you're in that dressing room and you come to those games and you haven't done it, yes, it does weigh on you. And of course you want to try and take the final step, but what we're seeing, for whatever reasons, I'm not going to use injuries or anything, for whatever reason you get to this stage of the season and you're trying to get over the line, there's not much more you can do in respects of trying. And mentally and physically, I think that they're done. I think that they've gone as far as they can go. And when you come up against the quality of the PSG and you don't take charge, it just gets to a stage where, yes, you do question yourself, because you think, why can't we get over the line? Why can't we finish it off? And it's something that will always be levelled at Arsenal until they do it. So again, as tough as it is to swallow, you have to try and find a way to go again, Kels. So we do need to buy players. We do need a striker at some stage. It's like Gary Neville said, it is 7 years. We do need to have that player that can finish those chances, that gives us a footing in the game, so as then we're not chasing a game. These are the things that we have to start doing now. The injuries what we're having, we have to sort out. Do we need to make sure that we can get our players out there and they can last? So the last step, Kels, what I'd say is being in the dressing room, watching players go through the agonising like mental strain it takes to try and win it. That's why it's so hard to win. That's why it's so frustrating.
I look at that when I always look from the manager's point of view at what could Mikel Arteta do better, not just for that game, but over the period of the season. I don't see anything. I really don't. I don't see anything what he could affect his team with, that group of players, to get them over the line to win the Champions League and to win the Premier League. I think he's been let down by recruitment. Now, he might be part of that. He may be. Obvious and glaringly obvious that they need an out-and-out striker, but they need a little bit more than that as well. They need a few more dotted around the squad. Versatile players who can come in with the quality of his starting 11. Most teams in the Champions League now, and certainly in the final, they have a way of playing, and these players can come in off the bench and they can affect it.
Inter Milan.
He hasn't got that. It's almost like when he needs to make a change, it's like a total contrast of a player coming onto the pitch, and they have to tweak everything to try and fit him in. I think he needs help.
You see it, Kels. We're bringing on Calafiori, we're bringing on Zinchenko, we're bringing on defenders. We've got an 18-year-old 1 year. He's supposed to come on and change these big games.
Midfield striker.
That's what I'm saying. Those are the things that we need to think about now. And
they do have a bigger squad, but they have a lot of soft tissue injuries.
Again, this is something else they're going to have to look at. Because obviously all teams can say about the injuries they've had, but I'd like to think that Arsenal would do better if we had some of those guys at least fit. Look, all of our forwards are gone. All of them are out of that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's Havertz, Jesus, all of them out. Saka, 3 months.
These are all valid points. But when Mikel Arteta was interviewed after the Paris Saint-Germain game, he said that he thought Arsenal had been the best team in Europe this season. Is that encouraging for Arsenal, or is it more worrying that even when they've been the best team, they still can't get to not even win it, but get to the final?
Yeah, a bit of both, because when you are on top, you should make it count, and they didn't do that against PSG, home and away. I think it's also the fact that he wanted to say this is not a bad season. It's a semi-final of the Champions League, probably another second place in the league, but second place in the best league in the world is not as good as first. It's not that bad either. And I think he doesn't want this season to go down into being negative and people saying like, oh, it's no trophy, so everything is bad. Not everything is bad. There's a lot of things to sort out for sure.
It's about whether there was progress from last season to this. And if Newcastle beat Arsenal next weekend, then Arsenal finish in third place.
Because if we're talking about like points tally, obviously we've regressed.
Yeah.
You know, and points, we've regressed with everything what's happened. But there is a reason for that. We've lost players that he's counting on, and like I say, everybody has that problem, but it's really affected us without a shadow of a doubt. He's tried to not use it as an excuse. Sometimes listening to his interviews afterwards, and I was saying to you earlier, okay, maybe have half an hour.
Yeah.
Have half an hour, think about what you're going to say, because obviously the line about being the best team in the Champions League has not gone down well. Yeah. I think that we done well in those games from Real Madrid, even Paris. We should have taken chances to go over the line, but we didn't do it. Can't quite take that last step, Kels.
It's very difficult, you know, when you step out of that, the emotion of the dressing room, you just address the players and you're going into that press conference. I mean, I was the world's worst at it. I mean, I'll just say it just come out.
No.
You know, the emotion's there, and he's getting a lot more experience than I had. But you just wear your heart on the sleeve, and sometimes you wish you hadn't said it, you know. But then once they're out there, you can't get them words back, you know. So I feel for him, I really do, because he wants to win more than anyone. I mean, all them fans.
It's very easy for people to point a finger, though, calling us names. It's very easy to do that, but you can see they're at full tilt trying to get this done.
But the point is that they, you know, usually when teams have, or previously when teams in the Premier League era have pushed and they've been in the mix, they've won a title somewhere in the mix. And because Manchester City are not at Manchester City's levels, this was the season to capitalise. When that happened previously, they've been going head-to-head with Liverpool. Liverpool won the title, again by a significant margin, when City slipped back. They've done it again, and Arsenal didn't do it in this season, and I think that's maybe where the finger of concern is being pointed.
No, not at him. It can't be.
Whatever.
I think
and
the manager,
people are looking
the
for
buck
reasons.
stops with him. The worst thing can happen, they make a change now. They make a change to that squad. Someone else comes in, tries to reinvent it. Or my fear would be, if I was Mikel, they bring in someone. All of a sudden, there's different facets to management. He's obviously a very good coach, very good on the training, in the training ground, in and around. Has a good relationship with the players. But perhaps what he's not good at is convincing the owners and the money men to spend the money in this direction. Now, that is a facet of management. Someone might be able to, bully him's the wrong word, but aggressively convince someone that we need a striker. Unless we get that striker, when you go into a club, you're always at your strongest. They could get someone in there now who says to Burton, the new sporting director, this is what I need and I want it now and I want to make sure we get it. And they could get that player, and all of a sudden, they don't need much surgery, Arsenal. There are a few players. They are 2 or 3 players away from winning the Premier League.
You know, the thing is, you say that about, I believe he can say to the owners, because that's what happened with Declan Rice.
Yeah.
They didn't want him. He says, I want him, and I want to pay that money for him. And like, he's made 100 and whatever his million look like nothing.
Yeah.
Because Mikel can go and do that. This is why you're hoping that, it's the last summer what's cost us really, Kels, in what we should have bought maybe. That's maybe was the big mistake was made in that recruitment. But like now, I think it's tailing on us. So this summer, with Andrea Berta now at the helm, we'll see what he does. I'm hearing Zubimendi's. I think it's going to be a massive summer.
Zubimendi is coming in midfield to strengthen that midfield. You lose Jorginho, maybe Partey. But the thing is, those signings have to have an immediate impact. You can't bring Sesko from Germany and you need 6 months to adapt, because 6 months would be too late. By then, you might be 10 points behind Liverpool and 12 or 15 behind City, or the other way around. Whoever you bring in now, whether it's a Premier League proven player, striker, Isak, somebody else, or Gyökeres, Sesko, whoever you want, they have to hit the ground running straight away. Otherwise, there's almost no point.
Yeah. No guarantee. No matter how much that's
but just don't get it wrong.
But they have to bring in a ready-made player, not a potential.
I think so.
Before you could let somebody. Here you go. Pires needed a bit of time to adapt to English football. No problem. Thierry a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now you can't have.
I think what we can't afford to do, Tim. Sorry, Tim. What we can't afford to do is take a chance on. You know, you might buy a Nunez or a Højlund. Yeah. I don't think Arsenal can afford to pay that much money and they don't have a return. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah, and that is why it's so difficult to find that player, Kels, because them 2 guys, they paid a lot of money for potential and we have to go to that next place.
But some of them
that's going to cost us.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
You know, some some players, Soldado, I can use as a good example.
yeah,
Come at time, he's like a record goal scorer in Spain. I mean, he's really struggled.
Yeah.
Really struggled in an unpressurized environment. Really, who wasn't chasing, the big prize, which is to win the
And it opened
Premier
the
League.
door for homegrown talent and Harry Kane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's why you haven't got something through your academy, and they've got a fantastic academy there at Arsenal. There was something, but you're going to have to wait for them, and they can't play every single game. Wannieri, I love his approach at the moment. Wannieri sitting on the bench with a face like thunder because Xhaka's back. He wants to play. I admire that. I love all that, and he will be a superstar for the future of the football club. But you need someone. So what we're saying is, to eliminate the big risk, you have someone who's already played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
For me, I think there's one no-brainer up there, but I think they need a few more. I think Liam Delap is the answer for me, because he's a development player who will come in there. They can progress him. He's already played, rehearsed, scored a lot of goals in a very poor Ipswich side this year in the Premier League. For him, just tick that box. Whatever it's going to cost, £30 million. It's nothing in these days. A cup of tea in terms of signings in the Premier League, and then go and maybe get another one. At least you've got a body who plays in that position, and you haven't got to force someone to play out of position to try and put the jigsaw together.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer for Arsenal, as you say, as they try to find those last couple of pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's not much point really in looking at Liverpool's performance at this stage of the season, and we'll be talking a lot
Liverpool
more
done the
between
job.
now and the end of the season about what they need to do over the summer. One of the things they're going to have to do is replace their outgoing right back Trent Alexander-Arnold, about whom there's been a whole pantomime. There was loud booing at Anfield, actually when the teams were read out before kick-off. And then when Alexander-Arnold came out onto the pitch, it was booing again from the Liverpool supporters. That's what he came on, and as you said, he did look as though he was slightly shocked, Trent Alexander-Arnold, certainly surprised by the reception. And then his first touch, that time round it was particularly loud and noticeable. And what was interesting, talking to people who were at the game, is that a lot of that was coming from the Kop, which is seen as this kind of supportive mass, and people would have been maybe more understanding of Trent Alexander-Arnold. They were certainly been his biggest supporters when he was a Liverpool player by choice. Obviously, he's decided to leave now. Conversations about whether or not he'll be going to Real Madrid and whether or not he might be going early to play in the Club World Cup. But as things stand, what we do know is that he won't be a Liverpool player come the end of the season, come the start of next season, whatever happens. Can you choose to leave and choose to be loved at the same time?
I think that you can choose to leave and hope that you're loved, Kels, because of what you've done. I suppose that's why when he ran on the pitch, he had that little moment where he looked like he held his hands like he couldn't believe what was going on. And then, Tim, you quite, like, you've done well to that little nervous wink, what he done.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very tough because I can't understand, it's only my little Palace problem. We're going back to Palace. I didn't expect to get booed, and it does throw you. But when you look at...
That's the worst thing they could have done.
Really, it really does. It really does take you to a place of disbelief, Kels, and I think that's where he was. I thought they would boo him because we know that there's history on that. But what surprised me, Liverpool fans, you go and play at Liverpool, you play well at Liverpool. People are always giving you compliments if you do a good bit of skill. If you beat Liverpool, they clap you off.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Nah.
Yeah.
I've never heard Liverpool boo a player.
It happened a little bit with returning players when they
remember,
left. Suarez came back
but
with
not
Barcelona.
their player
when
in their
Michael
circle.
Owen had come back with...
Yeah, but not their player, but he was playing for them. Never heard that. And I knew that would happen. I had a feeling that would happen simply because, you know what I mean? If, it's very tough for a player that comes from the area at Liverpool, to leave for whatever reason they may want to leave for.
There were a couple of grumbles around Steven Gerrard, whose name they were singing to make a point, because in the end he decided not to go to Chelsea and to stay
there's a story behind
at Liverpool. But there were definitely grumbles at that stage, but he hadn't confirmed that he was leaving, and in the end chose to stay, so that he didn't get that reaction from
but the thing about it is that Steven Gerrard, he wanted to leave. It was something that wanted to happen. We hear stories. I'm not going to speculate on stories. In the end, he stayed.
Yeah.
At some stage, I'd love to hear from Steve McManaman, Steve Gerrard, Michael Owen, how they feel, because I'm sure it's very traumatic for them. Because how much they love the club, what they've done for it. So
it's not just about leaving. What the supporters are saying, and the angle that they've really hooked onto with this, is that he's left without the club getting a transfer fee for him, that they've developed him. This is the fans' view, is that they've developed him, the club have, from 7 years old, turned him into this right back because he was a midfielder. They've created the player that he is, and they think that he should have at least, even if it was signing a contract for the sake of the club getting a transfer, could have done that.
Surely that's down to... Thank you, Tim. That's down to them to make sure that they don't get themselves into that situation. They sell him for Trent to take the brunt of it from the fans, which the fans, I totally understand how upset they are with. It's unfair on Trent, obviously. But there's business guys up there that must be looking at themselves thinking, how have we got ourselves into this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is this also how Real Madrid work?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think at the club, they felt that even before they started talking to him about an extension, he had made his mind up that he was going to run down his contract and leave for free, very likely to Real Madrid. I think the fans probably feel that frustration because it's Real Madrid as well. I wondered if he was going to, I don't know, Juventus or Bayern Munich.
I think they would have been upset with any because they do
Real Madrid
feel
have such a...
they feel like there's money that they should have got, and that's not something that they should be directing at Trent. It should be pointing at those guys upstairs.
Absolutely.
I know that there was a lot of change in that management area, Kels, but that is, for Virgil van Dijk, Salah and Trent to be getting there, they are very fortunate in the end that all, like, two of them have stayed. Because you've got players of that calibre running their contracts down. It's crazy.
There's also a point, because it's the Inside Matters weekend in the Premier League this weekend, and it's all about, getting people to talk and open up. And I do think there's an element to this, which is that people are very comfortable expressing anger, but maybe not so comfortable expressing disappointment and sadness and kind of more.
No, but it's a good point, Kelsey.
There is something, there's a sense of particularly male pride, I think.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And you get that in a stadium. You get those guys in stadiums, probably those guys who are booing Trent and those guys who boo all the players for whatever reason. They've got their own, there's something happening with them that they can't express it somewhere. I really like that, Kels, because now I'm thinking about it. I'm glad I'm more of a vulnerable man who can express myself.
You are now.
But I am now, Kels. But you're right, Kels. There is something about that particular fan and that particular that man who cannot express, you know what, I know what he's doing. I'm a bit disappointed, but good luck to you.
Yeah. And it's a point that Jamie Carragher has picked up on, is obviously a former Liverpool player who was born and bred in Liverpool and stayed there for the whole of his career, even though he was an Everton fan as a boy. But he picked, and I don't know what his options would have been if he wanted to move from.
Well, it wouldn't
have
been Real Madrid.
But he said,
Change the subject.
I'm not going to comment. But the point is, he said, it is a very, very emotional club. It runs on that, and that helps the club a lot of times. But it also means that when people are invested in you, then they're going to feel it more when you choose to leave.
I was like, Trent would have known that, no? I mean,
I think he was surprised at how much. Just looking at that reaction on the pitch, it looks to me like he wasn't expecting it as strongly, and I think that might have been it.
A little bit shocked, And I think the best thing for now, they've got nothing to play for, as you quite rightly said. Take him out there. Take him out of the firing line. Whatever he needs to do at that full play, he's done it, in my opinion.
So what happens when he goes to get the medal next?
Just very quick, because we need to move on to other stuff. Just very quickly, how would you, if you were a player on the pitch, getting your winner's medal and lifting the trophy on the last day of the season, feel if one of the players was booed? Would it affect your celebration?
Yeah, I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, you wouldn't like that because you're in it together, Kels, and that is the moment. Yeah. That is the moment. So you've got to be careful as well, because other players will look at that and think, whoa, and these fans could boo one of their own, and he's lifting the trophy. Those are the things that I'll be thinking about. I'll be gutted. The players will have been gutted for him yesterday, Kels.
You could see
they were gutted for him.
They've lost some love for Trent, and also what they won't want to do in future, Trent will lose love for them as a football club. He does not want that.
I don't think he will. He won't. Never. He can't. Since he was 6. That's why.
But if you get booed.
But the thing is, but you can't take away what's the memories that he's got from that club. That's why he's disappointed. But he will always love the club. And that's what he said. He can't not love the club. Just like the fans can't.
He can't say, I won't like him because you booed him.
I know. Yeah, I know for a fact. And I'll say
it Michael Owen talk about it as well.
He loves
that
place.
Time when he's returned to Anfield, having left, and he went to Manchester United. So if you think Real Madrid was bad, going from Liverpool to Manchester United was a trick. You're not directly, of course. Coming up, we've got lots more